community schools.
Yes.
And somebody marked through it and put Elkhart and put our address underneath it and then sent us that. And it was all mutilated. I mean, the letter is, I put it in a different envelope. Thank you. Did you get it, Glenn?
Well,
It's already up there. Yeah.
I'm a commendable board member.
You know, I was like, it's
better than mediocre.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
or a so-so.
Yeah.
Thank you, I made it.
You are the first topic for us at the work session at 6, so. Perfect.
You have 4 minutes.
Fine.
All right.
There it is. You want to start?
The first, a lot of the slides have not changed from last time.
Okay.
Because we only have spring numbers updated. Obviously, we haven't had another fall winter.
Not too bad. It's like a new life. Yeah,
They won the regional, right?
No, I didn't know.
They made it, they were super regional this weekend.
Cool.
Yeah, we're the best, 2 of 3, if they win that, they go to World Series.
So maybe it wasn't so bad with the first game of conference.
Yeah, the team that they play is in their conference.
Really?
Yeah, UW Stevens Point, and they went 3-1 against them, so.
He
He didn't get it at all. No. I mean, he made the tournament team.
Right.
They cut from 33 to 25. 2 of his roommates got released. So he felt pretty fortunate to be on.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's, you know, I probably wouldn't switch it at this point either. Yeah, he's got a lot of starters. And Dylan found out a lot of these guys are coming back next year. He was like, oh yeah, because they all have COVID here.
Right. Yeah. Really like awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
My son.
Mhm.
Yeah, so bittersweet, you know.
Yeah.
But,
Well, you know what?
it's over all in, man.
I can
Eventually,
guarantee
you're not gonna be.
I can guarantee you it's better watching the game from the dugout than 2 rows up behind the dugout.
Well, that's what I said. I was
Right.
like, you know, 2 of your roommates
Or, yeah.
at home. Well, one didn't even come. The other middle infielder, he's from Milwaukee, didn't even come back and get older.
It is.
Like, well, and I said, like, had you come home, I'm not sure that we would have driven you back to watch, you know, but we probably would have.
You would have.
Probably would have, yeah.
Yeah, but your initial gut would be like, oh, no, but then you're like, yeah,
Well, he's only an hour away. I have a feeling he'll transfer.
well, that's a sign that he's thinking. He's only an hour away.
The other guy's a pitcher, so, you know, and we're losing 2 pitchers. Really good. Well, we're probably 3, but our number 1 and number 2, so. Anyway, yeah, it's fun.
When does summer ball start?
He actually, if they advance to the World Series, he'll miss the first weekend. So, can you like send a text that comes up on the 5th, 6th? Just, he's playing at Grand Park, just college league there. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesdays. That first, not this weekend, but the following, so. Sorry, maybe the 5th and 6th, I'm not sure what the days are.
If he ever gets
Probably 5th and 6th.
if he ever gets a chance to play with the senior league, play in the Northwoods League, and
Oh, yeah.
it's pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah.
The play.
Well, his coaches talked to him about that, but they said it'll be hard to get you in as a freshman.
No, yeah, it's an older league.
Bryson Sherwood is signed a 10-day contract. I don't know, like.
Really?
His team made it to the World Series.
I know.
He's having a great year.
There was a team at a Kenosha in the Northwoods League playing in Grand Rapids, and one of the Michigan State coaches was coaching at Southern Law School. They had flu, whatever illness go by, a bunch of injuries, trying to get guys there for this one game. Didn't have enough. I was like, do you want to play? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So I played in the Texas League up there at college. And so I go get there. The pitcher's throwing 82 mile an hour, breaking balls that are dropping out, hitting midnight. I'm like, you know, so no timing, no nothing. Right? I was just like, hey, 2 at bats, didn't come close to it, sniffing without 2
Well,
off.
that's for like, you can be, I athletics and hold your own, sort of,
So batting, yeah.
yeah, you might be able to hit some fastballs, but you're not gonna hit.
I played second base, so one pop up and a ground ball in that game.
Yeah.
And I got two at bats, and I was like,
Right.
oh my God, it's good. And those days were good. And then a lot of them were, Insignificant. Guys that were playing in that league.
Bryson plays with a lot of Dominican.
Right.
I mean, we don't really know much about the college league. We've got a little bit rosters from last summer, and there's a lot of D1 guys. I mean,
So Bryson did get a 10-day contract for the Northwood League?
that's what I had heard. I don't know if he signed it. I mean, I'm assuming right now he's kind of consumed with, like,
Yeah.
make sure what they're leaving. They're probably already on the road.
Yeah, they are.
They were leaving after school, so, yeah, I mean, as soon as he's done, like, he goes, and,
That's pretty good.
it could be extended to 30 days, but that's probably it, is what people thought.
Yes.
Oh, and Heather. I didn't know.
Always find out.
Hey,
All right. Let's say commendable, regulatory governance award. For me, yes.
We will go ahead and call to order the public works session.
At the February board retreat, we had a presentation from the athletic department and giving information regarding what had been happening across our athletic programs, and the board had requested that maybe towards the end of the school year that they could come back and update where things are. So I've asked the athletic department and middle school folks to come and share information with us. So you are first to go today.
Hello, thank you for having us. The slide presentation is very similar to what we put together the last time we updated information, added quite a bit of details from middle school. So some of these slides I think we can get through pretty quickly.
Yeah, we should be able to go through a lot of them quickly. Nothing has changed from fall or from winter. It's still consistent.
So elementary numbers from fall, winter, we did update spring. Okay, so you can see football, lacrosse, winter cheer had just started. Tell me if I'm going too fast. These should be updated numbers as well from elementary. So you can see the total participation for the year. And I don't believe that Mary Stingray added any details to these next few slides, but I'll just pause for a few seconds so you can refresh your memory.
On your numbers there and stuff like that, if a student participates like a 3-sport athlete, does they get counted 3 times or just 1 time?
I'm not sure how he did
I'm
that.
not sure how he did it.
Yeah.
How would you do it?
So we would not count them more than once
All right.
for total participation. Obviously, we count them, you know, if the state asks how many kids are playing softball, how many kids are doing gymnastics, and they're in both of them, we count them.
So it's elementary, they're probably doing just 1.
And a lot of this stuff we went through last time. This is what you're seeing here are the facts and things that we did with our task force when we did elementary a year ago. And then we, after we finished that task force, then we opened up that position, we hired Barry, and then Barry helped facilitate this year. He's not here tonight. He had another, prior engagement with his children.
some of the challenges he faced, the financial climate, the reason we really had to go in and make some good changes with elementary is they were operating in the red, had been for a number of years.
Yep.
So, in charging admission, they're operating, and really funding themselves. We're not making a lot of money, but they're not in the red, so that's a good thing.
For the first time in probably 20 years, they're in a good position. We just wrapped up their season today, so final financials will be ready in a day or two, but we're in good shape. They're, the high school athletic department loaned them $5,000, and, they'll probably be able to get into that or get close to breaking even for the year.
So moving forward, and I don't know who's going to speak on behalf of the middle school ladies, but this is a repeat. These are numbers from fall, and this goes into numbers toward the winter. And and some spring as well. We did update track for you, and I think everything else, probably the last time we presented, was up to date. So the track numbers are accurate. Those are combined. All three schools do have track teams.
You want us to continue, or do one of you guys want to talk about next few slides?
So these next two, I think, are just repeats, just to kind of show you what we're hosting on the high school campuses, just to take advantage of the facilities we have. So these are middle school athletics. We did add a club middle school tennis team, incredibly successful, up to 40 kids, boy and girl mixed, playing tennis, so we felt really, really good about that. And then these are middle school athletics that do take place on the middle school campuses.
Were there, I don't know if we asked this question the last time, are there any particular sports that are seeing an increase, a decrease, a decline?
At the middle school level?
Elementary and middle school,
Middle school level, you're seeing a decrease in track and field. Respectively, in track and field cross country, you're seeing a decrease in that. I think it'll take 3 years for that to come back, just because we've just reinstated elementary track and field, and before that, without track and field and the elementary level for about 3-4 years when COVID hit.
So do you think that's the reason it's low at middle school, so the track and field at the elementary was discontinued?
I can definitely tell you from everything in my body that yes, that is the reason why my teams, we went from 25 to 30 per grade level down to 20 to 15.
So that's our area that's a little weak right now. Those numbers were low as well for all three of us. Really pretty drastic.
Pretty drastic, and we see a decline in football as well, seventh grade to eighth grade level. Part of that, I think, is because, again, we had elementary athletics shut down for about a year due to COVID, so the kids weren't being exposed to it in the elementary schools. And also, the whole concussion, concerns about concussions from parents nationwide, I think are leading to fewer kids playing football in general. I think that's not just here in the state, across the country as well. So what we're doing as a group at the middle school, we're meeting, all 6 ADs in the corporation, we're meeting regularly to work on the vertical alignment that's already been going on at the high school and the elementary level. We're working as a team to create we call competition environments, similar to what they've done in elementary school, for girls volleyball, basketball, boys basketball, track, and swimming, where we host a Elkhart night where the three of us play together at one of the high school sites, to bring in more fans, more, maybe even the elementary kids, kind of pep up the whole concept of athletics here in Elkhart. And it's a little bit different than when we would just say north side of Purebred would play each other. If all three of us play each other in one night, say at the freshman division or at high school over here, we can get a larger crowd, maybe invite the elementary kids, kind of make it a big deal, have maybe an elementary recognition night that night, and just kind of several programs over there, what we can do.
So for that, volleyball, girls basketball, and boys basketball, we've already set aside a Saturday. We'll all three be there together. We're gonna have one track meet over at Rice, all three of us, so hoping to include elementary kids as well, so they can see the environment and kind of try to spark their interest again.
We're gonna incorporate, some clinics too on those days that the high school staff will present.
Did the time change for elementary affect the sports too? Because they had that time, that hour, that maybe we didn't have staff that could watch the kids and parents really didn't want to leave their kids there. So has that actually hurt our sports at the elementary level?
Effective practice more than it's effective competition. Because
Okay.
of the way we balance the schedule and try to run our competitions later, competition-wise has been pretty good, but we're still not getting as many touches with our kids as we'd like to on a normal basis because of that gap.
Okay.
If you have a lay coach, they can get there and start practice. If you have a coach that's a teacher, it's hard for them because there's not supervision before they can go to practice.
Okay.
And at the middle school level, our kids are getting out at 3:20, and because of the schedule the way it is now, and transportation, the issues around transportation, we're not getting our kids picked up to go to practice locations until around 4:30. So they're sitting in the school for an hour after school waiting to go to practice. And that's a big turnout for a lot of the kids, having to sit there and wait for an hour.
You guys will love me on this one when I say, did we revisit changing?
But adversely, if that, now I can bring elementary sixth graders into cross-country wrestling and swimming. Whereas before, cross-country swimming and wrestlers didn't show up to practice until 4:15, 4:30. Now they can actually show up and practice the entire time and have a impact on the team and be with us 3 additional years, which the end of the ball game will help out the high school.
But you are relying on parents to do that. Right, so there's,
But you always have.
true.
Right.
We're struggling just, so we go on the road, we're starting at 5:35, so it is a long time. We're basically trying to feed them, have study hall. We were making it work, but it is it's a very long day for our kids. So, I mean, I understand what he's saying. I think we've probably lost some kids.
That's what I wonder.
I mean,
And
trying to
you're
work on a number, I know we lost a few soccer kids back because of that.
Well, there's, in like elementary, you're trying to grab a parent to coach or do this, that, or the other, and if there's nobody there to watch the kids, then they can't really have any difference, so we're relying on something different. And a lot of parents are comfortable having their kids there in elementary because they don't know who's watching them or what's happening, so.
Yesterday, we all, extended an invitation to all middle school coaches at all 3 of our buildings, invited them in at North 5, and really had a great turnout and a really great discussion. And with that finding, we had about 6 questions, and I just we tried to just bullet point the good things that we're doing. They feel like we're doing well with scheduling, communicating, our events are organized and running smoothly, which we love that. Their concerns as coaches that they pointed out, all sports aren't equal, transportation.
What is all sports are not equal mean?
To be honest, we're not exactly sure. With our task force, we're going back and gonna spend time and being very specific.
Lacrosse is never gonna be equal with basketball in Indiana. I mean, let's face it.
Well, I used to think that about volleyball
Now,
too.
you're talking, like, I love lacrosse.
It's a great sport.
But basketball.
My stepdaughter was national AAU, went for the Junior Olympics. I love it, but this is Indiana.
I didn't even know.
I talked to the person that, did this morning, and he's, swim coach, so of course you're swimming, your cross country, your tennis, your golf, you're not gonna be at the same caliber, at the same standard as football, basketball, because you're not the moneymaker. So, we don't, in that same regard, don't get the same.
Right. Well, and but how, you know, like, are you like working with them on like the cross-training aspect of it? Like, you know, cross-country helps with this sport, or
Yes.
that helps with that sport?
Definitely, we try to promote that as much as we can, where cross-country and swimming do go hand in hand, and trying to get kids out as much as we can.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just, they don't wanna take that risk. They don't wanna be as vulnerable as they would like to, or we would like to. So some of the areas that the coaches in their discussion yesterday, would like us to improve on is obviously transportation. Not just the time the kids are getting picked up and getting transported to practice, but by the time we get to games as well. Holding all the coaches across the district to the same expectations, and having set expectations for all of Elkhart community schools coaches at this level that everyone's supposed to meet.
To expand on it, I mean, do we have different expectations now? Or is what, obviously there's a feeling that there is, or?
There is no district-wide expectations for middle school coaches. We have to kind of set our own expectations within our own building for that, but there's no like official set from the district.
And whenever I say a statement like that, there's a law, you know, and there's a reason there's a law because somebody was breaking the law and it's not equitable. So when I see a comment like that, obviously there's some coaches that feel that there's not. I would assume that the expectations are different per sport or per coach.
And to answer that question, I'm not quite sure how to answer that. That's something we're going to get into as part of this task force, why they feel that way and what things aren't the same from building to building.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be like, who sets the expectations? Would that be you and Bob that would set the expectations of what your athletic department?
As a board, you have set some, professional boundaries,
Right.
some guidelines for coaches' code of conduct.
Correct.
All the coaches
Well, we
are expected
understand
to follow
that.
that, but those are the biggies.
Those are the policy.
In terms of evaluation, they do not have an evaluation piece in place like the high school coaches do. And that's been that way for a long time. They have kind of taken what Buck and I created, and they have kind of watered it down a little bit, and they started using that, but that was something they just recently created because there was not anything in place.
So it's more specific, there's, it's very similar to theirs, so we did use that, the three of us used that this year. And then your coaches can come in and go through it, they sign off on it, but, we're getting there, it's getting, progress.
Who's helping the coaches be better coaches?
Great question. You'll find that up here soon, I think they're interested, some of them, in taking, assistance from the high school coaches and having that kind of come down, and I think a lot of them want them to be, more involved in their program. They're ready, a lot of them are ready for that. Now that we're at one, it's much simpler, to have a high school coach helping our coaches, I feel.
Is there a plan for that? The high school coaches to come down and work with the middle school, and then middle school.
The high school head coaches are evaluated as piece of their evaluation has to do with how much they're touching and impacting the feeder program. What coaches are doing really varies by sport. Some of our head coaches don't have a feeder within the district, so it's a little more challenging for them. Some, have feeder teams at the elementary level, so there's a lot in place, very accessible for them. So it really depends.
And we'll be able to check and make sure our people are doing that expectation from the high school coach as well.
Well, for it to be an effective feeder program, the head high school coach has to set up, in elementary school, I want this skill taught, I want this skill taught, I want this skill. And then when they get to middle school, we need to move it to this, so that it's building all the way up to where they come into the high school. The kids are prepared and know what is expected of them. And, the guys that play on the line are gonna know that they have to do this and this and this, and the quarterbacks do this and this and this, and that's the only way you can effectively do it, so that it is all top down, so that our new football coach, Coach St. Louis, is directing everything. All all the elementary schools, all the middle schools, all the high school is following his direction for football. The same with Coach Sears and every other sport. That's the only way it's gonna be effective. We have to all be moving in the right direction.
Nobody disagrees with you. How do you, like, how far off are you? Some sports are already doing it. I mean, the sports that are winning are doing it. We have something kind of in place where coaches can kind of submit their curriculum. And we're still kind of debating how we want that to look, whether it's a beginning, you know, emerging, or just by grade, how we want that to look. But that, you know, allowing the coaches to have access to rosters, I mean, it's shocking how difficult that is, just to have access to rosters, to reach out to some of these kids, to get camp forms to kids. That is not an easy task. So there are a lot of.
Why is that, Jackie?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Because we don't control who passes camp forms out. I guess.
See, and that's.
I can take them to their teacher, but I can't make them pass it out.
Well, and that's something, Jackie, that I think too, like, see, this is something to visit. It goes back to what we continue to talk about, is communication. Like, we should have set expectations that, especially at elementary schools, these things are coming in, these things go out, and it needs to be straight across the board. I mean, to me, it completely makes sense that every elementary school has the same expectations. So if we're gonna continually talk about being an equitable school, then we need to have expectations that are straight across the board, and it is, the communication piece is key. But, you know, the thing is like, if we do have that, then our elementary program is building up and stronger, whether there was a gap or whatever in the front of it. These kids are playing travel sports all over the place. So we've got to figure out why they aren't coming in. So whatever that not excuse, but, you know, we can't use that anymore. It is, we have a weak link in our elementary school. We have these sports at junior high. We have these sports at high school. I mean, between the two of you and what's going on and having the three of you there and us merging as one high school, we should be like, you know, we should have feeder programs that are merging. It's much more stronger than what we have. And
I think
we need to figure that out.
One key is everyone knowing where to go to get information. So when the new website is launched, everyone has, like, they've all contributed to that. We've been working a lot with Brenda Colby.
Right.
That will be a huge help.
And I don't want to sound like I'm frustrated with you guys, because I'm not. I will just tell you overwhelmingly, and it's no surprise I say it often, I'm frustrated with the communication from the school all the way around. To me, we moved to one high school. We should have already been exceptionally prepared for what was going to happen. We had all of these schools coming together. We were going to be the Elkhart Lions in the Forest. We had all of these years to prepare for it. We need to be stronger quicker, because if we keep showing weakness in band, sports, academically, our families will leave, families that we want to come here and keep. And so I just feel like I'm frustrated, because not with you guys, just as a whole, that we knew we were coming together as one school. I just feel like we should have been. And like, to think in my head that not everything across the line, to me, like, behavior expectations of an athlete, if you aren't passing your grades, whether it's this whole facade of you haven't turned in any homework, but you passed your final and got a D, and now you've passed your class, there needs to be expectations of behavior, what's expected as an athlete, across the board, everywhere. You know, I mean, I'm just nervous, because I feel like we're not where we need to be as fast as we can get there, except for a couple of sports, which I would say you got that dialed in on volleyball.
I've been here a long time.
I know.
25 years, a big part of it.
Yeah.
So the good news is we created, athletic bags.
Mm-hmm.
So every sixth grader is going to go home with middle school information in it. Every sixth grader will get that. All the eighth graders coming in as freshmen have one as well, with all the information on one side of that.
After tomorrow, Buck and I will have visited all three middle schools. This will be the second year, so we've spoken to kids who have an interest in sports at the high school and kind of talked through our expectations. And
can you do like that? Even the kids that, maybe there's kids that like wouldn't normally go up for it. Is there any way for you guys to have like the school in the auditorium, and you guys do like the Lion comes out, and maybe some varsity sports members come out from each one of the sports they represent to every elementary, and do like this powerful, like, hey, here we are. If you want to do sports, this is what's coming your way.
I think it's best if we go to them as opposed to opening.
No, I'm saying that, no, I'm saying go to down their gym and have, you know, yeah, not just the ones.
You have to understand that, you guys can send all kinds of information home, they might not even open that bag till they're ready to start school again in the fall. And it's the disconnect with parents not even looking at their kids' bags and some stuff like that. It's ouchy, and so unless we get the kids as compelled as possible to want to connect, or, you know, it's so much more difficult for you guys because of the amount of information that's coming in, and information that they either don't take home or parents don't look at, or, you know, it's almost like information overload, and it's like this starts to fall. So I don't know how to make, one of the things I did for 10 years was work on something called the Parent Athletic Council at Memorial, and we worked hard. My job specifically was theater, and I thought that we had come up with a pretty good idea, and it's something that you guys started to do as we were closer to coming together, you know, doing the blue and the red teams and all that. But what I had suggested back then was the fact that, you know, we start to, if we get too competitive at the elementary level, we start to kind of like sift out kids that don't have the confidence, don't want to take the risk. I love that idea of kids not wanting to take risks, because when they're on their computers here, there's no risk, right? So this is a big risk to put yourself out there, and so they're not getting as much risk pushing by people. All of this is just a babysitter, and there's no risk, and so this is comfy for them. So I think we're battling a lot of things that doesn't necessarily have to do with what we are doing or not doing. One of the things that I suggested back then was that we, instead of having a competitive, elementary, we actually turn it into skill building, intramurals, and not spend the money on the coaches and the referees and all that, only for skill building, because what we needed was kids to come up and try to participate in the offerings at middle school. As a middle school basketball coach for 10 years, I've always insisted that we had a D team, because if you're only sending the numbers from a small team that you are sending up to the high school, the attrition is so small. That's why by the time they get to high school, we struggle with numbers. We were struggling with numbers 20 years ago. So one of the things that was interesting is if we can do those kinds of things, if we can expand, I think at middle school it's going to be hugely important to expand the amount of kids participating so that we can send more kids to high school. Takes more coaches, more money, more time, more people than just warm bodies in those positions, people with some champions of these things. And then, making sure, like, when I would have a B team, almost always I would have one of those kids who had not had a lot of skill building prior to coming to my program. And then all of a sudden they would be able to make the A team. And oftentimes, I would say probably more times than not, one of those kids would actually be one of the starters by the time we, were closer to tournament time. So it's super cool to see what can happen if they're given the chance, that more kids are given the chance. So part of my thing was, let's spend some money at the middle school level with broadening our offerings and our more B teams. I know there's other schools that have numbers and they have B teams, and they even have, we used to have B team competitions. I don't know, we didn't have a B team. So I don't know if that's possible, but that's kind of what I had suggested back then. And along with the blue and red team for middle school at the time for like the sports and swimming and all of that. I think also as you guys get more offerings, that does kind of start to dilute those kids that are kind of like already competition able, kind of. Like they have that mentality of, I just want to get in there and do something, right? And we're not, I don't think our society is, I think we're we're breeding people that wanna be safe. And I think we need to figure out a way to get parents to get them off of these things, to get them out of their houses.
Wow, I agree. So we don't allow cell phones in school anymore, and we definitely don't send iPads home for summer.
Anyway, but I was just saying that, I know you're up against a lot of things, and it's not easy. And I know, from personal experience, the way that you championed volleyball. There's absolutely nobody that has championed volleyball in this area as much as you. And I'm not trying to, but it's just true. So where are the find champions for each sport to do the same thing?
Well, I think,
Yeah,
the things we put in place at the
Yeah,
elementary level, I think we've created a fun environment for the sport. A lot of people are in one place, so there's a lot of basketball going on in one place, 2 football games going on at the same time.
Yeah,
So there's some energy and excitement. We've communicated with those 6th graders about how they can stay involved. We anticipate just those 2 moves alone are gonna really improve numbers next year. We feel really good. The 7th graders, like they said, were down across the board, every sport was down. Because they didn't play sports last year. So unless a kid is doing club, travel, whatever, it's not even on their radar. So we anticipate there'll be a big jump.
Good.
So,
How do we get our coaches for, how are we finding those people that want to?
it's harder to find coaches.
Challenge.
Okay.
It's a huge
A
challenge.
lot of
Finding
teachers don't
those
want to coach
champions.
anymore, they just want to come in and teach and leave at the end of the day, finding people that are qualified to work with the kids, it's really hard. In our school, the schedule that we have at the school right now, getting out at 3:20 is also hard to find late coaches, because a lot of them have jobs. You can't be off at 3 o'clock to 3:20 to be there to start
And now with
practice.
the high school getting out later, it's those people, very difficult for that to get there.
Have we thought about reaching, I don't know if this is even possible, but reaching out to some of the colleges, local colleges, and finding out if there's kids in those sports that may want to help champion some of these efforts? I don't know. It was a problem back when I was coaching too, to find good people.
I find it difficult to even find some responsible adults. And to put a person from college, just because you played the sport doesn't mean you know how to coach the sport.
That's for sure. Take care of
There's an
children.
extreme difference between knowing the sport and knowing how to teach, and teach not just the sport and the techniques that go with it, but to teach character.
Amen. I don't know we have to do something different though to try to find a broader pool. I don't know what those ideas could be, but I think that would be important.
Well, we feel pretty fortunate we do have 2 head coaches that decided to make a change, and we feel very positive about the head coaches we've gotten to replace those. So, I think, that really falls on athletic administration to work with people who are passionate and want to put the time in to learn the X's and O's and to learn some strategies and management. That falls on us, but it's hard. A football staff is big, you need a lot of people. Some are easier than others, but
This is a big thing.
yeah.
Has there been any discussion, sorry, I hijacked it, has there been any discussion of, how staff is taking over to identify kind of the best of all the schools in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, putting a Elkhart team together, whether it be basketball or baseball? I know Scott tried to do
What's
something.
already happening, that's already happening.
So we have teams in the 5th grade that are representative of Elkhart High School playing in the travel basketball league.
Boys and girls.
Really? In the 5th and 6th grade?
Yeah, Kyle had a 3rd grade team.
And they're all Elkhart kids?
They're all Elkhart.
And they wear lines, they represent as lines.
Huh?
Troy, they're both.
They're both what?
Girls and boys, they're
No,
both.
they have some all Elkhart and some that are combined with other schools.
Right,
Oh, you know,
I'm
yeah.
specifically,
Yeah, I do.
I want specifically.
That's where you're heading,
That's,
yeah.
yeah. That's what I thought. I thought there was,
Yes.
teams I
Right.
coach are kids from every high school.
We're coaching some kids from other schools.
Right.
We have, softball, baseball, both basketballs, volleyball, we have a club, cross-country team,
That are Elkhart
club
school
wrestling,
sponsored.
club
Yeah.
swimming.
Okay.
Yeah, we have quite a few teams actually.
Cause I would run up against school teams a lot. I mean, over in the Fort Wayne area specifically, and then like the Holy Cross League. So, I just wonder if we could do the same thing.
I know you guys are working hard, it's a big I mean, it's a big deal. It's a lot of problems you have from the coaches standpoint, from the communication standpoint to the kids, to getting them just to try to risk a little, all that. It's a big job that you guys are trying to pull off here.
And we're trying to get into the elementary schools at us three. The schedule that we have, teaching half day and then AD in the afternoon, and the schedule the elementary's have, it's been really hard to get in this year, because we're covering classes, we're doing a number of things, because we're short on staff in our buildings. And we just can't get to the elementary schools to talk to them, so, we're trying to find out-of-the-box ideas, ways to get the information out to them as best we can, and hope that the parents read it, the kids read it, that on the first day of practice, we got the kids showing up.
Are there virtual messaging that the buildings could do and put up?
We use Remind. If you're in Moran, a virtual app where parents can log in and get free messages sent to them. They just got to sign up for the app in order to get it. And I put it out at every game that we have. It's out on our Facebook page, our website, the mailing that we sent out, the ENF we sent out, the login information there. They just got to avail themselves of it.
Got it.
Another question was, what role do you want the high school coach to play in your program? Again, we've talked about this, making connections, possibly bringing athletes in to work with our kids, and recognition nights. I know Jackie does that for volleyball, but we probably need to get that going in every sport.
We had several who did it. That's okay.
And again, any ideas on how to improve participation? We're praying that COVID had a lot of a negative impact, and it will change coming up this school year. We do have a lot of kids needing physicals. That's always been a battle. We're trying, but.
Is OSMC still doing the physical for us?
They're not allowed to, but
I just say.
Serious?
well, it's not IHSA, it's the doctors that give information to the IHSA. They won't recognize game physicals any longer. So where 100 people line up and they go through like this, the doctors in the state of Indiana are who opposed to it. We may see the IHSA dropping that physical the way we see it now and changing it in the real near future. They want them to go see their physician. They want them to have a healthcare physical. They don't want to just run them through, cough, look at this number, check them off.
No one is doing that.
So now we're back, relying on parents to do the right thing, and you know how that's working out for us.
We have made some relationships with several
It's true.
clinics, so that we can help direct people there for reduced costs. If you tell them you're an Elkhart athlete, so that we can try to help.
What about like the Heart City Clinic?
Yeah, we use Heart City a lot. A lot of my kids at my end of town go to Heart City.
What is that one too on opposite of the road, the EMC? That was, I think, like $25.
Yep.
You can walk
They
there.
range really between
Yeah.
25 and 50.
Yeah.
We have a list that we just give kids.
Yeah.
They don't have a family doctor.
But it is a factor, because we do lose a lot of kids who
Well, yeah.
cannot get a physical, which means they cannot participate, and it just drives them away from the sport.
But the conclusion yesterday, these are the coaches that volunteered to be on the task force, and we will be working with them and going through each question, each bullet that kind of came out from each question, and try to come up with some great solutions.
Obviously, the middle school is, they don't have flexibility in changing their schedule. They're in a conference.
Right.
So you're not going to see systemic changes for middle school. So I think that's why they chose to, and I think it was a great idea, focused on, the coaches, they have the feet on the ground. What do you see? What do we need to do? What do we need to work on? And that message, particularly when it deals with the high school coaches, then that's going to be our job to talk to the high school coaches and give them opportunities so that they can make those quality connections.
And we're in an awesome conference. I mean, it's fabulous. It's strong. We're definitely needing to stay in that. It runs very efficiently.
Okay, challenges.
the last few years, we've had the ability to have a lacrosse team that's been on the books, but we have not had athletes, boys or girls, at any of these 3 schools that were interested in playing lacrosse. Every year we advertise it, we sell it, but we've not had a team, to my recollection.
The first year we had a team.
Okay. I've been
Like 3
years. And we feel that in many ways we could better use those stipends that we have for lacrosse, but there is no interest right now for sports that we do have already at the high school: golf, baseball, softball, and we're probably tennis. Thank you. And the hope is that we have a lot more interest, and we've seen that with tennis already. That the kids will play golf, or they'll play baseball, or softball, something that's not as foreign to them, if you will, as lacrosse is. So we feel that we're not using our stipend that for lacrosse the right way right now. If we could reassign that stipend and use it for one of these other feeder programs that they have at the high school, that will help the vertical alignment a little bit more between us and them.
What's the process for that?
A hockey team.
No,
You need a hockey team, you need a hockey team to grow.
Normally, late summer, we get the opportunity to talk to Mr. Thorne and look at stipends, and we have several suggestions. Last year, we had a couple that we put in, but we were a little too late, and there were a lot of things going on. So this year, we're gonna talk about that, and hopefully can make some small adjustments.
Lacrosse across the board has been small. Our girls team has really struggled with numbers. Our boys team has been inconsistent with numbers. And some of that money, we feel like we could support the feeder programs for the IHSA sanctioned sports.
And I don't wanna really truly, without having a hockey team, it's hard to have a lacrosse team because they go hand in hand. Most hockey players play lacrosse. So if you look at St. Joe and Marion and Penn, they all have hockey teams. So, I mean, I'm not saying we have to grow a hockey team, but
All of the lacrosse programs are clubs.
they're clubs, and they're clubs, well, they're all clubs, they pay,
And they partner, and they,
yeah,
quite expensive. Our kids are fortunate.
yeah, they really are, they are.
So do we have lacrosse at the elementary level or no?
8 out of 14. 8 of the elementary schools participated out of the 14.
So why are we having a problem with 8 schools feeding into 3, getting lacrosse teams? And should we just have one lacrosse team?
We did, we were just trying to have one.
Yeah.
One of the problems could also be, now they have to pick between going from lacrosse or track and field.
Because
Or tennis. The season all overlap at the same time in spring, so, I mean, where most of, again, our kids follow more than lead, where are they gonna go? They're gonna go where their friends go. So if their friends are more likely to go to track and field, then that's where they're gonna fall into. And then you get, let's travel over here, and let's travel over here. The awesome part about tennis was there was absolutely, yes, it was overlapping seasons, but the practice times did not interfere with track. We had actual track athletes that came from track practice and went to tennis practice, and so it was.
The coach did that intentionally and supported, and I would say 40.
Yeah, it's nice to have supported.
It was a very wonderful, strong, positive, good spring.
If I could move things just a little bit, we need about 10 to 12 minutes for Lindsay Cox at the end of the work session for something she wants to share with you. So I just wanted to make sure we allow that time before we get to the board meeting.
Yeah, my question is, we have this beautiful pool down there, and what has been the turnout with swimmers and, use of that facility there?
Actually, I would say our numbers have been down a little bit.
I can speak to swimming a little bit. We, again, Mr. Ford is on the same committee I am. We're meeting Mr. Anderson. We're in the process of realigning our swimming program, getting both the academic part more engaged as well as the athletic part. We haven't utilized it as much as we could, but we've ran into some challenges. Transportation's been a real challenge. Our timing is a real challenge. As I explained last time, we tracked a swimmer They got on a bus at 7 in the morning and got back home at 7 at night. 3 of those hours are spent on a bus. They get picked up at the freshman division, they run a route, and they get dropped off at the swimming pool an hour later. They get their practice and they get home for dinner at 7. Some of those challenges we're starting to work through and figure out. We're gonna have a full-time, I think, right, we're still gonna have our full-time PE teacher now down at the aquatic center so that we can offer more curricular offerings, which is gonna help a lot. Doug has a great idea about exploring possibly even maybe in middle school. We're not there yet, but we have to get our lifeguarding classes back in there. So yes, we have stumbled a little bit, but I feel like that we're starting to turn the corner there. Our numbers for girls swimming was down a little bit this year. Our numbers for boys swimming was about average, about where it has been in the past. Our club numbers are also down just a touch, but we're losing some club swimmers. And again, I don't know the fix to this, but there's other clubs sharing that pool. So a club swimmer can say, hey, do I want to go swim with Junior Irish? Do I want to swim with Elkhart? Hey, my friend's swimming with Junior Irish, so I'm going to go swim with them. So that's a challenge that I don't know the answer to. But thanks for asking the question about swimming, but I feel like we've got a bit of a plan now moving forward.
Okay, yeah, because we put a tremendous amount into that particular asset, and it's state of the art, and you know, it's top shelf. So,
and if I could say one more thing, Jackie and I just had the opportunity to meet with Beacon, and they also supply us our trainers, and they brought to us a proposal. They're going to look at a way that maybe our swimmers could have a limited membership for free, so they could do their dry land and weightlifting there and use their facilities instead of us having to do other things. Now, that conversation just took place last week, so it's not going to happen overnight, but at least we're thinking with our partnership to move forward to do something different.
excellent, thank you.
And our swimming program has been very successful at generating some top-notch swimmers. One of our swimmers that are graduating this year is going to IU on a swimming
Next year,
scholarship.
next year.
Okay, next year. But I know we have some that have gone on to the next level to swim also. So they are doing a good job. We just need to increase the numbers like we do with all the sports.
Well, getting the curriculum in place will help. None of our students walk by and smell the chlorine. They don't see a pool anymore, right? So it's very different. So if we can get them in the pool in 4th grade and maybe middle school PE as well, that will be huge.
Well, I think too, one of the things that, I remember, being across town and the swim coach at the time, Karen Lee, being a gym teacher too, is you didn't have clubs like you do today. You had your summer club, but having the gym teachers being able to identify kids in their gym classes that would be good athletes. And I remember very clearly there was an athlete, a young lady who was really good in track. Didn't really know how to swim very well, and she was able to recruit her, taught her how to swim, and was a fireball in the pool in a short distance. So I think being able to make those connections, so maybe having a PE teacher there at the pool when the kids are doing swimming and can help identify some kids who may have innate ability that don't swim club. And I think, club is expensive. There are a lot of kids that can play sports and do swimming and not have to do swim club. It's just being able to identify some of those kids and get them involved and say, hey, just try it.
It's a huge win for us to have
Absolutely.
a high school PE teacher there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree.
Kind of what?
Yeah, so like this is just being, hit on, for like the second time, maybe third time. Dismissal times, transportation, finding quality coaches, and financials. This year, there's been a big financial take for our wrestling match that we got some 2 different quotes on. Got 2 different quotes on it. And it's in the process of getting approved, hopefully. Right? Yeah, hopefully. Good process.
Okay, moving on. You good? Good. Okay. We saw these fall, winter. The updated spring numbers were very good in the spring. So positive about those numbers. We did add 2 sectional championships this season, boys track and unified track. And then individual accomplishments, we've added some of these, girls track, boys track. Girls track, they're competing in the regional right now. Actually, boys will go Thursday. And we have one individual, our number one single, competing right now as our Trojan tennis, the tennis regional. So, just to revisit some of the upgrades we've done, and we put in italics where we are completed with a lot of this. Some things are still in process. Rebranding, ongoing, that's a big task. This is a repeat, just have that up there so you see it again, some of the programs we've added since we've merged. Challenges, obviously the dismissal time. Every time I'm in front of you, I feel like I talk about that. And transportation, some challenges with facilities. Obviously with losing the assistant AD in the athletic department, we have to look at how to structure and fill that position. We personally don't feel like it needs to be necessarily administrative. There are a lot of other options that I think could be cost saving. Looking forward, I don't think we've added anything to that third bullet. I mean, obviously with the difficulties we have with transportation, you know, some of it we created because we have teams competing and training on 2 different campuses. We try to pick the best facilities for each sport. If you could get all the sports on this, you know, our main 10 through 12 campus, or the majority of them, that would be great. There's a big price tag with that, however. Revisiting, you know, a health and wellness coach. Every day I get on Twitter, I feel like every school is adding a strength and conditioning coordinator. We're a little behind with that. And, you know, a big goal that we have is a performance or a wellness center. We got a huge need for that in the athletic department. And that's it.
So that's the conversation you had with Beacon, was a little bit,
We have had some really good conversations with Beacon about the possibility of using one of their certified strength people. And we would contract them like we do our athletic trainers. They would have to be paired with a PE teacher, but actually that would allow you to put more kids in the class. So where right now we could maybe run 30 to 35 through, we could run, we need a bigger space. We couldn't run 60 to 65 through right now, but if we had a strength coordinator and a PE teacher, you could double the amount of kids that you're getting in your strength classes. So not just athletic, but that would be a huge boost for curriculum as well. Yeah. So Beacon is very in favor of it. And I think we're going to revisit it through the summer.
They're gonna take it to their board for the new budget year, and their budget year will start in July. So it would be a year away before they would be able to look at sharing costs in that.
You
and
mentioned,
I'd just like to talk to you guys too about the rowing, because we do have boats. And I have a really good idea, really close, where to put those boats in and practice close by. One more sport, one more, but it could be a really great one with all of our water. Sure.
you mentioned feasibility study. Is that something you're doing right now or needs to be done?
Our understanding is that it is going to be done.
By who?
When the feasibility study is done overall, just about needs for programs.
Oh, the one we just talked about?
Yeah, the one.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Because when they've indicated needs for facilities, I've said, well, those would be things that as we're going through the feasibility study and having conversations about programs and things, that it would be things that could be brought up during those conversations.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay? You're here.
Awesome. So I'm Lindsay Cox, and I thank you for having me tonight. And you noticed the live captioning across the bottom of the screen. Sorry if that threw you off. But what we're going to be talking about tonight is, for the second year in a row, Elkhart Community Schools was awarded the Aiming for Achievement grant through Patents. And so Patents is kind of a technical assistance agency through the state that offers support to public schools to help meet the needs of our students, to ensure that they're not only accessing, but successfully being included in the general education curriculum. So part of this work with our team has been just looking at our district, what we have in place, and how we can improve accessibility for all of our students. So a little small thing, but just having that live captioning at the bottom of our screen could allow some of our participants, even here that are
here tonight who may have a hearing disability or a hearing impairment to just better understand and engage with our presentation. So we are infusing things like this across the district, again, to impact accessibility to our students. So the patent grant is very broad. Oftentimes when you think broad, you're probably thinking money, right, Mr. Weaver?
Always.
Always. But this grant doesn't have anything to do with money. What it does have to do with is technical assistance and support, all related around a couple different things. So complex communication devices and systems, incorporating a identification of students with print disabilities. So print disabilities is not one of our 13 areas for special education, but it is something that's coming out in research and continuing to develop, and something we need to consider when we're talking about special education. So the other parts of the grant include accessible educational materials, which means creating or making sure our students have access to formats of the curriculum, whether it be textbooks, video, audio, in a way that they can meaningfully access the material. So when we're talking about accessible educational materials, it can include anything from just being able to enlarge the print, to have it read to you, or even refreshable braille. So it's a wide range. And then the last part that the grant focuses on is just increasing that student achievement through overall universal design. And what that means is just removing any barriers that a student has to access that curriculum or their education. Okay? So there are a couple of celebrations that I want to share with you. So first off, this is Savannah. Savannah has a very unique and complex communication needs. And so over this past year, we worked with the patents team on a communication package just for her. And so we created a whole team of everybody who works with her over at Eastwood, and we trialed some devices, we took some data, and then patents even helped with financial assistance to get her that new device that's right there in her lap. So now Savannah has a mode of communication that she didn't have previously. So through our work with this, we also changed some district practices. You see that little blue icon there that says MOC. You'll now see that listed on PowerSchool. So any staff member who works with Savannah and has access to PowerSchool can click on that icon and see how she communicates. So for many of our students with complex communication needs, that information is kind of hard to come by. But now we have a system in place to make sure that everybody has the information they need to engage with Savannah in a positive way. Another highlight is just regarding special education. There are a lot of special ed specific things related to this grant. I mentioned about print disability. Even though it's not one of our 13 disability categories, it does fall under that specific learning disability, and it is becoming more prevalent. And so as a school district, we need to be aware of it, create process to help streamline how to get the students the materials that they need, and just train our staff on what to do, how to identify it, and continue to support our students. Some other work that we've done is related around our assistive technology team, and coordination with Mr. Tony England back there. The whole assistive technology team was completely revamped this year. And so we are continuing to move forward with that team and just assess where we are in the district and make continuous changes. So we have also instituted a digital ticketing system. So again, making it a little easier. You know, we're talking about the communication across the district. But when you have a large district, it's hard. But creating that digital ticketing system that works with our overall tech system, it's really infused, and so now staff know exactly where to go to request assistance for their students. So part of the grant, it says it doesn't include money, but if it did, this is where that would come into play.
So along with the grant, we get access to 3 specific tools. These tools are through Don Johnson, and they have different features. So UCAR is kind of a screening tool. It helps us to identify students who need or qualify for a print disability or who need accessible materials. The Snap and Read is an app that is available to students across the district, no matter if you have a disability or not. And you can download it in the self-service portal. And that app has a variety of tools that we'll hear about in the video. But the main feature is that it'll read out loud in English or Spanish, by the way. And then Co-Writer is your speech-to-text tool. So that will help students who are able to maybe verbalize but are unable to write. Just another way for students to access curriculum and share their knowledge, what they know. So in terms of money, each of these tools is about $4 to $5 per student, per license, per month. So that could be astronomical. But when we look at, so right now we have about 1,000 users using Snap and Read regularly. So if we were to put that into money, we're obtaining about $60,000 worth of materials just for Snap and Read alone. All right, so one of the things that I just mentioned is that Snap and Read tool also translates in Spanish. So in the work of this grant, we have been aligning with the district initiative, specifically the SIAP practices. And in partnership with our English learner department, are really trying to remind teachers of the importance of accessibility for all students and how they can embed not only these tools, but these supports into our classrooms. Because even though, yes, it might be good for this one special education student or this one student who's an English language learner, it really benefits all students in that classroom. And so we have a highlight video to share. And this video was originally produced to share with the patent group. So that'll help you understand a little bit more of why we're saying thank you at the end.
My name is Rhiannon Harrison, and I am the District English Learner Coach for Elkhart Community Schools. And here in Elkhart, we have 14 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, a freshman division, and 10 12 children. And we have a lot to celebrate for accessible education. First of all, we have 977 students. We also have over 1.2 million words read with the Snap and Read app. And this app in particular is one that the English learners use. A lot of the students use the translate feature, use the level feature, and also the feature. Another thing that we are celebrating is we have been able, with the help of Trustees, to identify students with print disabilities. We've gone from 46 identified to now 101. In one last final celebration, we are so excited that we had so many staff attend the past training this year. 220 of our staff went past training, which I hear we are #1 in the state. I'm Liz, and I'm an English teacher at Elkhart High School. One of my favorite features of Snap and Read is the feature that allows you to translate websites. It's on Safari that you can share the article to Snap and Read right from the website. And a menu pops up, and they can do several different things. They can translate the article into language of their choice. They can read the article aloud, or they can level the text either up or down based on their reading level.
Hi, my name is Jesse, and I teach 10th grade English. I've used Snap and Read for a couple years. I use it to translate the text that we're reading And if they're low level, it helps them because they can comprehend it for kilometers. That's much easier to make it just one that's enough for them. Because they already struggle enough in class, so they don't have to transition on their own. And they're it makes it so they can just keep working and reading in class instead of, wasting 10, 15, 20 minutes entire period trying to translate.
So, our community schools, we thank you for all that you do for successful education.
Yes,
So, when you say print disabilities, is this dyslexia or is it beyond that?
thank you.
It's beyond that. So when we think of a student who has a print disability, it's not just trouble with reading, but there is a disconnect between the text on the paper and how it translates into their brain. So this is evolving research that's continuing to come out, but essentially can't learn to read in the traditional method. And so having tools like Read Out Loud allow you to still, if you still perform, you can still, understand, but it's that truly being able to decode the text and translate it into your brain.
So it could be a perceptual, physical, or a vision disability.
Does it help with children that have dyslexia?
So Read Out Loud in general,
Yeah.
or having a tool like this, so it actually, the UPAR tool, that is the reader piece, the research has come out from that tool that actually 7 out of 9 students in any classroom, regardless of disability or other factors, can benefit from having text read out loud.
Right, I'm just wondering, even though we have a lot of children that have dyslexia, I wonder where we're at with that spectrum, and does this really help in that? Because you talk about English learners, we talk about, Braille, access to that, but our dyslexia children that are not being identified early on are getting to the high school level and are struggling.
Well, to me, it's similar to immersion. If I was trying to learn Spanish, I would learn better if I was completely immersed in a culture where that was surrounding me all the time. The same thing with this and reading. So if I have text, not only am I able to see it, but I'm able to hear it all at the same time, then you're immersed in that. And yes, the data is showing that that is actually a good intervention to address reading.
So, will this program, does it go all the way down into elementary, or is this high school only? What grades have access to this?
So, the tool specifically?
Yes.
Yes. So, the Snap and Read and Co-Writer are available to any single school or student staff member in Elkhart Community. All you have to do is go on to the self-service portal and add it to your site.
So when you talk about 220, Brianna said 220 members, these were core staff members that would really benefit from this, that are working in our, special, needs rooms, and also all of our ELL teachers participated in this, so they're aware that they have that. I mean, was there the expectation that this is here, we need you to do it?
Yes. So that question's really twofold.
Okay.
So there's internal training that continues to go on, and actually with partnership of the instructional technology team, so Brian Bennett and his instructional technology coaches, they are infusing this in all of the TVs that they're doing. So it's not just a special education endeavor, but it truly is best practices, and this is what we want to see available in every classroom. So when she's talking about 220 students or 20 staff members attended the patents training, what she's referring to is patents themselves provide specific training. So there were a couple opportunities that we had, that we participated in. All of our intense intervention teachers and staff members had patents training for 2 hours each of the e-learning days. So patents actually came to us and provided specific webinars on a variety of topics. But then also we sent a core group down to the Tech Expo. And so that was made up of all of the technology coaches, most of the technology coaches in the building. Brian Bennett and his team, as well as some of our assistant technology teams and some teachers who actually went down to Indy for the day and got to participate in Tech Expo.
There's a lot of training going on. Other questions?
Good work. Thank you.
So even though, yes, iPads going home over the summer can be challenging, look at how much that helps us accomplish.
Correct, but if we want children to get out of iPad and into the real world, sending them home, especially with everything else going on, probably isn't the right choice.
I want to thank you for somebody who's hearing impaired. I love captions. I have them on my TV, and then I don't miss anything, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we will take a 5-minute break before we start this board meeting.
Yeah, I got like 3. I don't know if I just opened cheap or there was one at 2 o'clock.
pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Elkhart Promise. Every student is known by name, challenged and supported by highly effective staff, and in partnership with the community will graduate college and career ready and life ready.
Thank you, Ann. So, the invitation speech protocol, there should be a half sheet on your paper. If you fill it out and give it to Dora, you'll have 3 minutes to speak at the end of the meeting. So we have a moment of pride.
Thank you for having me here. I'm Arya Patel. I'm currently a student at Elkhart High School, and I graduated in 3 days. And for this month's moment of pride, I chose the 2 track teams winning sectional. So, being a part of sports and track in general, you get lifelong lessons and communication skills from it, which you can use in things other than sports, like college, jobs, getting jobs, internships. You can also learn how to make and set goals to achieve the goals so that students in track can have the ability to have lifelong lessons from it. Supporting the community from track, you can have fundraisers, you can raise awareness by wearing different jerseys. You also get a sense of belonging from being a part of a team, which may help kids with mental health issues. Here we have the team winning sectionals. Then we have the winning 4x100 team. There's also health benefits to running track and just other sports in general. You create healthy habits. Most athletes have like a diet plan they follow, or like a sleeping schedule for homework, time management skills. Those are an important part of life. Lower risk of depression, according to some studies. Get support from coaches and get a sense of family. And you have somebody to go to if you ever need someone. 200-meter champ Rodney Gates, as he runs. Long jump and discus champs Nick Edwards and Ty Williams. They both got line of the week for being outstanding athletes. Ty is signing to IUE. The unified track team, which is the track, if you don't know, is a track team that's for boys, girls, and kids that are special needs. So that everybody gets a chance to play a sport and be a part of that team atmosphere. Helping everybody from any background really helps out, because let's say you're not fast enough, you don't make the track team. There's always a team for you and a place for you at the school. Supporting kids that suffer from special needs and have special needs. They don't get the opportunity to play many sports for missing a limb or some sort, have a condition. Unified Track can help you with that. And I know the Unified Track program here is solid. They won state a couple of years ago. Get inclusion from the team and the coaches, and building an understanding of life as a whole. Sectional champs, or photos right here. But being a part of a team is something that everybody should experience. The track team winning sectionals, providing that team atmosphere is something that I feel like the school should take pride in. Thank you for having me.
Great job. Thank you.
Tell me what you did yesterday. Hello. Oh, I was on WSBT for a news interview yesterday.
Wait, what?
Don't wait, don't.
Don't
Not here yet. Don't know what it was about. We have Friday to use too. Okay, yesterday I was on WSBT News. It's not aired yet, but it's going to air in about 2 weeks. It's talking about how School of Studies helps students out and how it kind of guided me through the new Elkhart High merger, COVID as a whole, and how I'm going to Purdue University next year for engineering.
Woohoo! All right. So if this is any indication of how you did tonight, what you're going to do great on that interview. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
And I will tell you, he looks very well dressed up, because he was part of the group with my daughter and her boyfriend, the group of 12 that went out to dinner and went to the prom, so.
Okay. Did you guys enjoy the prom?
Yeah, it was fun.
Great.
Which area of engineering are you going into at Purdue?
So first year is FYE, which is just general engineering, but I plan on majoring in electrical engineering.
Awesome, good for you.
Thank
Keep it up.
Thank you.
Go Boilers.
Okay, we have our consent items next.
So moved.
Is there any discussion?
Okay, I'm back. Let's see, Mary Jo Sartorius, $500 given to the Unified Track Program. A donation of $541.13 from the Elkhart Central class of 1983 to be used for a purchase of a bench in honor of a former teacher and tennis coach, Russ Buss. The bench will be, Bussy, sorry, thank you. The bench will be placed at the tennis court. Gift acceptance of $3,000 from Linda Homo to the Pierre Moran Athletic Department to support the growth of the track program, which is great. Phyllis Tubbs, $10,000 to the Elkhart High School Athletic Department to be used for athletic equipment and uniforms. So Phyllis Tubbs is still doing her thing all the time. Donation of $1,806 to the Pierre Moran Athletic Department for the track program from Marissa Davis, who is the principal of Pierre Moran. And then we have a $500 donation to the volleyball team from the Welter Foundation. Thank you, Jack and PNG. And that was it. So once again, quite a bit from our community.
I do have a comment or two. The tennis coach, Russ Bussy, the bench that they're taking to honor him, he was a member of our church for probably 100 years or something like that. And really, really a good guy, a good church member, great English teacher. And I think his wife taught in the school corporation too at the same time. So they were long time Elkhart, fans. Want to remember him. And also, under conference request right here, I see I kind of have a lone soldier here through the Thought Leadership Conference. And it would be kind of cool if the other 9 or 10 also turned in a request like that belatedly, and I would accept that. And that's all I have to say.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, we're moving on to old business. Dr. Solheim, is that?
I bring back to you the resolution for the 1003 flexibility waiver that we discussed at the last board meeting. This is a waiver that would allow us to ask to not be penalized for using asynchronous e-learning days. And as soon as the resolution will be approved by the board, within the next day or two, I would be submitting that waiver request to the Department of Education. And then we would await their response to be able to maintain our calendar that had been approved back in December.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, just a few quick comments. In the financial report, business office would like to share that the cash balance at the end of April was $37,819,487. As we look at the operations recap page, there's a couple of unusual items. There's some bus purchases on the equipment line on the operations page, as well as the third and final payment on a server, piece of technology that we have that we committed to over time. Moving to the back of the report, there's a page in there we wanted to report back to you. As you recall, Jason Inman came to you and asked for permission to sell iPads. And the result of that generated $123,520. That concludes my comments on the finance report. If there are no questions, I'll move on to the insurance report. As you can see, the plan we changed in January from EMR to Anthem. And so we're seeing significantly better discounts, and we are well ahead 4 months into the year compared to the same 4 months last year. We're $1 million ahead in claims, so a much improved insurance profile this year. That concludes my comments.
there any in the audience? Jamie?
Sorry, I guess it's false, but, I have issues after issues with Woodland Elementary and for principal, vice principal. Today, I got a call, my son was around with another student. He had his hand on his neck and they classified it as choking. They proceeded to tell me that it would normally be, I picked him up and, then I would have a meeting before he would be able to come back, but they didn't have time to do a meeting before the end of school year. They didn't have to, give me to allow him to come back and do it. The third time that I've had to pick him up, they recommended Oakland, and I got him.
If I could just interrupt you, rather than this be played out in front of everybody, just for your privacy and discretion, if you would speak with Dr. Higginson, and you could put your hand up so that she can speak with her regarding your situation specifically, then that can be dealt with confidentially.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Jessica? Owing?
Hi, I'm Jessica Owings. I spoke a few times in the last couple months. We have been trying to reach out to you guys to work together to get the community more involved with the school, get parents more involved with their kids. And I feel that you guys are listening but not really hearing us. Like we sat down many meetings. And then like 3 meetings a week. And it's a lot just to start off with. I don't want to bash you guys because I know you guys are just trying to do your job like we are. But I don't feel like you guys are taking us seriously at all. And we are so serious. We want more parent involvement. And you guys say you want the same thing. And yet, for the anti-bullying workshop on May 12th, it was not advertised correctly. I got a phone call, and I was part of it. Like, I knew about it ahead of time. If I didn't know about this ahead of time, I would have found out 2 days before the workshop. I don't feel like that's enough time for any parent to pencil in a 2-hour workshop. And then we get there, and us parents want a conversation. We need information. You guys need information. I don't feel like that was addressed like we thought it was going to be in our meeting. I just want you guys to hear us that we're still here. We still want to work with you. We still want more parents' involvement, but I feel like you guys need to put out there a little harder. We can't get a hold of all the parents in the school system. We don't work with the school system. So maybe if you got each school involved to get these parents out, it might be better. But posting up flyers in the school that the parents don't even go into doesn't help. Giving them 2 days notice doesn't help. Doing it on a night where there's 5 different after-school events happening the same night that require parents to be there. How are we going to get a good turnout? Not sending that survey to every parent on Seesaw, email, through the school, through their teachers, their students' teachers. Like, I feel like that would be a better approach if you guys are actually serious about getting the parents' input and having us help you so you could help us, because we don't know what we're doing, and that's what your guys' job is to know for us. We need your help. You need our help, but you're not putting it out there far enough. I think you guys are doing it halfway,
and it looks really bad, and it makes us not trust you even more. And what we're trying to do is build trust between us and you. Thank you. Have a great night.
Jesse?
Jesse, I think you guys know that. First and foremost, Rio's Rainbow does not support victim blaming or waiting for a reaction to actions happening before we decide to punish the aggressor and the victim. We do not believe bullying or conflict should be act after act of physical assault or emotional abuse before intervention happens, if ever. We believe in stopping the torment as the source of the problem. Report 1. Getting adults involved with both parties the first time an issue is reported to any staff in the building. If staff fails to comply to protocol, they should deal with their own repercussions. Contacting both families and requesting a sit-down with all students and parents involved, along with social workers and administrative staff or teachers, should be the first step of correction at report 1, whether it is found to be a bullying scenario or a conflict. I know we want kids to be responsible for their own actions, but they are children and still need adult guidance. I'm an adult and still need other adult counsel when I have my own conflict. If a second report is made for a reoccurring student, we begin thinking of consequences. For example, completing 8 hours of community service before an expulsion is listed. Or creating a teen court where peer families will evaluate real-life predicaments and use jury duty as a form of consequence. Serve 3 jury duties before you can attend any after-school activity. There are so many creative ideas on how to get the children involved with the correction of their own actions. I understand throwing them out and alienating is not going to benefit a troubled student. On the other end, we have to have the same effort in protecting the approximate 80% you call Tier 1 students with possible minimal trauma markers, as we do those in Tier 2 or 3 who may have several. I'm saddened to feel like our Rio's legend is being used in a limelight that isn't true to the needs of our community. So I stand here today as myself, Jesse Yost, parent of an Elkhart Community School student, asking you to do better and be better, and make the changes you discussed making with our group on May 5th. Reevaluating your definition on what bullying is and changing your standards on how we let kids treat each other and our staff. Hearing that we have best anti-bullying practices for third parties and lawyers is disheartening when these kids are dying due to these bullies. There's always room for improvement, and it's time to acknowledge that. I'm sure you guys read the room May 12th. If you couldn't feel the race that day, I'm not sure you comprehend the magnitude of change that is needed within the district. I suggest the next event we plan, we make sure the community is able to have the two-way discussion they expected and deserved last time. I still stand here striving to work for change together, but I won't be bulldozed into submission of standing by your already set protocols. Change is exactly that. Doing something different because current strategy is failing. So today, please make the choice to stand on the right side of history and be the beginning of a domino effect of change for kids and school staff all over the world.
Dr. Talheimer, do you have anything?
Jake, if you wouldn't mind bringing up the website for us. Maybe go back to the home page if you would. On our Elkhart Community Schools homepage, we have this summer programs icon that is here that comes up on the first page, and if you click on that first dot as it goes to scroll, then if you click here, you will see a full opportunity of summer sizzles. So there are activities ranging from the beginning of June through the end of July and even into August, around a variety of camps with our partners, with community partners and the Camp Elkhart that we've arranged. And then at the bottom of the page, you'll also see summer sport camp opportunities. So there are ways to find more information and do online registration. So I encourage families that are looking for things for their children to engage in this summer to continue learning and being engaged academically, being involved with the programs from our community partners, or looking at these athletic opportunities. Those are all there for everyone to be able to connect with and would be of interest to your children. The second thing I would want to do is to thank all staff as we get to the finish line for this school year for their commitment to students and for engaging in the work that everybody did this year. There was a lot asked of all staff members in covering shortages, and for us to be able to do that, incorporating new curriculum, working on the things that we were working on, and successfully completing the first full year of the merger in its full form with the schools of study is a real testament to the work of everybody within our buildings. And so for all the folks that drove bus or cleaned our buildings or fed our students or took care of staff in any way within our buildings as an administrator or for our teaching staff. I want to say thank you. And then third, just for board members, a reminder of Friday at 2:30 is the work session for the 2 follow-up interviews for the RFPs, if you're able to attend and wish to do so.
Anybody from the board have anything? Meeting adjourned.